Welcome to Solutions with Courtney Anderson. I'm Courtney Anderson, and this is episode 212, episode 212 of this program. And today, our show is part of the Help Situation Spotlight series. Our Help Situation Spotlight series is where you, community members, share with me what's on your mind, what you're thinking about, what's worrying you, and we come up with potential show solutions and work through and discuss ideas to help you. We shine a spotlight on the things that you let me know are important. And so today in our episode 212 of our show, we have a program that as I was looking through the show lineup in the calendar, I thought to myself, we haven't done this show? I mean, I know it's been 212 episodes of this program. Of course, we have our companion video program. So we have Solutions with Courtney Anderson, where it's our video or our television talk show podcast. So check those out on CourtneyAnderson.com. We have articles and courses and upcoming webinars and seminars. And I thought, how have we not covered this topic? But sure enough, when I go back through the library of resources, we haven't. We have not done a show just on this topic. So here we are today in episode 212. What's the topic that I thought we probably had already addressed? And I was incorrect. Our show topic today is I apply for jobs, but am told I am overqualified. I apply for jobs, but am told I am overqualified. So that's the show topic that I thought, my goodness, we've already must have done this one. I know it's something that I talk to people all the time about when I'm doing my individual sessions for executive coaching and career strategy sessions. I know that I thought we had done this, but we haven't. So I do encourage you, as always, to come to CourtneyAnderson.com. You can go through our library of resources. The website is intended to be an ongoing resource. And so we do have, at this count, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages. We've got in the neighborhood of 600 individual URLs and websites and microsites. Each one of our individual shows, of course, has a show site. So please drop by CourtneyAnderson.com and you'll come to the microsite if you'd like, just for this program. And of course, for all the other hundreds and hundreds of programs and resources, our blog, all the things that we do. So it's meant to be an ongoing, hopefully one day, comprehensive one-stop shop for you. But it's not meant to be a website that you come, you look around, and in a minute or two and you say, oh, okay, I see what this is all about. That's because this is an exhaustive, and it's intended to be an exhaustive website. And like I said, it's a work in progress. So I don't know where it's going to end. Obviously, I don't know how much, I don't know the future, but my anticipation and my plan and my hope is to continue to add resources daily until my time is up and I'm no longer able or excited to do the programs. And I cannot imagine that happening. So again, CourtneyAnderson.com, check us out. And if you come to the specific page or microsite just for the show, you'll see the notes, any links. You'll also see me coming back through our library of resources and programs and adding links, articles. If I create a course or a seminar on a content issue or related issue, you'll see me add links to the page on that. And of course, we always have show sponsors for you to peruse if there's a product or service you'd like to take advantage of. So one of the reasons, like I said, I thought we already had done and covered this specific topic, the overqualified issue, was because, again, it's so pervasive and it's something that I'm constantly in dialogue with people about. So let's dive in and see what we can potentially share in terms of solutions. All right, so the one thing I want to say at the outset of this concept that I do have pushback from people, like I said, as you may fully be aware, what I do professionally is I use my different services and I work with organizations, right? So I come on site to organizations. Many of you in our community met me when I came to your employment organization and did corporate training, speaking events, I've done consulting. So that's one way that I work. Another way is I work with individuals. So some organizations will have programs where either current, either executives or high responsibility team members or people who aspire to be will be vetted and potentially able to join into a program. I work with them individually. And then, of course, I do have programs from time to time open to the public where I work with people individually on career issues, on strategizing any of the areas that they're looking to surpass their goals, right? So when I talked about how this is such a common issue, and I talk about pushback that I receive, so it may be in a group setting, it may be in an individual setting, and of course I'm out around the world as much as I can, giving speeches and sharing either my own research and things I'm working on, and taking part in different types of live events. So the pushback I receive collectively or individually is that my contention is if someone shares with you that you're overqualified, then you are. So let that settle in. I'm putting it out there, and I have before, which is why, like I said, I've received some pushback. If someone shares with you, they tell you, they send you an email. I guess it's possible they send you a text message or a video call. However they communicate with you, if it's smoke signals, if it's a handwritten letter, if they acted out an interpretive dance, I don't care what modality of communication they use. If they share with you, you are overqualified, then you are. And this is where some people say, what do you mean? That's the whole problem. I'm not overqualified. If I was overqualified, I wouldn't be applying for the job, right? I need the job. That's why I applied. Then they say I'm overqualified. What am I supposed to do? Okay, look. In some of our experiences in our programs, I have brought out the concept, right, that perception is reality. And so I'm going to do that again right now. If someone perceives that you are overqualified, then or more well, I was going to say more overqualified than they are, or that they perceive you are overqualified. If that is the situation, then you are overqualified. It's like if someone says to you, you're really attractive, you're just really a good looking person. Okay? Now, if they say that to you, you could say, I'm not attractive. I can't believe that they said this. This is one of my ugliest days I've ever had. Okay, look. Perception is reality. They perceive that you're attractive. So you are. Whether or not you think you're attractive is a totally different question. Whether or not you think this is your most attractive day in the history of the universe or your least attractive day and you're the ugliest thing you've ever been is not the point. The point is that they perceive, and their current reality is you are attractive. You arguing with them about that is useless. And it also, of course, is going to make you seem irrational and odd. Someone says, hey, you're attractive. The only thing that you can do to respond to that is to say, thank you. You do not say, what do you mean I'm attractive? I'm ugly. What? Really? And it's the same thing with this type of perception. If someone perceives you're overqualified, then you are. The question isn't whether or not you think you're overqualified. That would be a different show. This show specifically says, help, I apply for jobs, but am told I am overqualified. That's the situation we're talking about. I'm not asking whether or not you think you're overqualified. It's a different area that we certainly will address. The question here is what other people are telling you, and other people have told you when you applied for the job you're overqualified. That means that you are. Now, let's start walking through the rest of it. What do they mean by that? What does it mean when someone says you're overqualified? All right, I'm going to go back to my analogy I just used a few minutes ago. What does it mean when someone says that you're attractive, that you're good looking to them? You're hot. You're sizzling. What it means is they think that their perception is that you are physically attractive. That's what it means. What does it mean when someone says that you're overqualified? It means their perception is that you have too many, that's what over means, qualifications for this defined job or business opportunity. That's what it means. Too much. Now, some people get really stressed out about this, and they go down this whole sort of a negative analysis, and they say, well, how is it even possible to be too qualified? How is it possible that I'm overqualified? That's like being, too smart, right? Or too good looking, or too healthy, or too charitable. Like, how's this even possible, right? Qualifications are a good thing. So more qualifications, being overqualified, thus should be more of a good thing. Okay, but all right. Perception is reality, right? And when you're dealing with other people and this employment arena, so this is a specific situation where, again, our show title says, I apply for jobs. So this doesn't say I'm hanging out with my friends and my friends say I'm overqualified. That's a different type of discussion. It doesn't say I was doing my charity work and they said I was overqualified. Different type of discussion. In this discussion, you're applying for a job, and I'm interpreting this to be an income job, a job that gives you money. And they say you're overqualified. Let's walk through what that means. It means in their mind you have too much. Too much what? You have too many qualifications for this defined job. So let's say the job is an admin assistant. Administrative assistant is the job title. Okay. Part of where people get really frustrated with this, and it does cause real challenges, is when they don't take that step back from a job interaction. And remember, this is not personal. What do I mean by job interaction? Anything related to a job. You applied for a job, you were on a job, you wanted a job, you didn't get a job. It's a job interaction. This is not personal. Okay, let's get back and think about, step back. When people are hiring for a job, what do they want? Well, they want, and they perceive that they need to some degree, right? Someone to do whatever that job is. So if it's an admin assistant job, the reason that they are hiring is because they either want or perceive that they need, right? Perceive that they need means the person who did it, moved away, and so we don't have anybody to fill that job. Now, I said it's a perceive that they need it, because in theory, do you really need that job at all? Does that job position need to be eliminated or restructured? It's a whole different question for the employer organization to go through, that we discuss those aspects in different programs. In this program, you're the one who's applying for the job. I want us, again, stepping back from this interaction. It's not about us personally, but ask ourselves, why are they hiring? Okay, well, they're hiring because they need or they want, right? They perceive that they need or they want someone to do this job. Okay. Ideally, when you're hiring, what you ideally would like is to hire someone who absolutely is able to come in and do the job, ideally do the job very well, and ideally stay for as long as possible. The reason you'd like them to stay as long as possible is because every time I have to go out and hire people, it costs me money, it costs me resources, it costs me time. So they would ideally like to find someone who is not only incredibly skilled, let's say it's an administrative assistant position. So it's somebody incredibly skilled with administrative assistant skills, and that also comes on board, does a fantastic job, and stays for as long as possible. So they don't have to go back and refill this position over again, right? So let's look through the things that will potentially negatively impact my employer perspective on the hiring. If I hire someone and they actually, even though it's an administrative assistant position, and it requires speaking in person and speaking on phone and on internet video access to customers and peers, it requires utilization of hardware, maybe a tablet, maybe a desktop computer, a phone, maybe a fax machine. Yes, people still use fax machines, especially in a lot of industries that are paper intensive, real estate, law firms, for example. Okay. And medical offices, actually. All right. So I want ideally someone who can do this thing. What thing? Whatever the job is. We're just using our placeholder of administrative assistant. They're looking for someone who can do that thing. Remember, my fantasy is I find someone that can do it well, right? And they stay. All right, so it's administrative assistant. You come in, you apply for the job for administrative assistant. You start to show them potentially good things. So when I'm looking for someone to do something, the shortest, fastest way for me to figure out if they potentially can do this is to see if they've done it before, right? And so that's why when we have our programs, and I do encourage you to check out our library of programs, but about your resume, we've done programs on that. We've done programs about in our communique series about phone interviews. So you need to go, if that's what you're in mode of looking for jobs, go through and pull all of our different programs about finding jobs and interviewing for jobs, and start to use those to build your program for you individually to get the job that you dream of. Okay. They want someone who can do admin assistant. I just went through some of the things, right? Speaking, using hardware, using software. Okay. It's the easiest thing to do in many instances, we think, as humans, to just see if somebody's already done that. So if I look on a resume and it already says admin assistant and it says all the stuff I'm looking for, right? Using the multi-line phone system, greeting customers in a reception area, utilizing the fax machine, managing the flow of people through an entry office. If I see all that on there and that's actually accurate, which is a whole nother question, then in my mind I'll think, well, this will be easier. They've already done all this. Ideally, I want them to come in and start doing it like immediately, right? So especially in some parts of the world, now some countries and some parts of the world, some societies have a little bit different perspective where the idea is I just want to find somebody who's got great, integrity and time management skills, or has a wonderful speaking voice, and then I can train them to do the things they don't know how to do. So that does happen. But in many instances, many global organizations expect you to come in and be able to do a lot of the basic core aspects of the job from the start. That's why they want you to be qualified. So if I look on the resume and the cover letter and I see all these things that match up, I'm happy, right? I see admin assistant. I see they've done that for a certain amount of time, not a day. Maybe they did it for a couple of years. That makes me happy. I'm thinking, good. Not only have they done this, but they've done this for a while, so they know how to do it. They've worked on the same type of computer system, hardware. They've worked on the same type of software that we use. They've worked in an environment where they greet the public. So I'm hoping, this is my dream, they'll have an idea of what you would, wear and how you would speak to people in the public, how you would maybe handle a busy public interface office if you're at the front, if you're an admin assistant and you're greeting people. So I'm looking for all of that. The more that I see that matches up with what I'm looking for on their paperwork, the happier I am. That's a good thing. Here's where it starts to get, let's be very honest, from the employer perspective, here's where it starts to potentially cause me some concern. So I'm looking on there, I see all these awesome things. Admin assistant, so many years, using the phone system, greeting the public, using the fax machine, managing the software. I'm happy. I'm getting really excited and happy. Then I look on there and I see something like graduate degree from the university, master's in management. Okay, I see that. And let's stop here for a second. When I see the university graduate degree, the master's in management, what do I think as an employer? Now, the first thing I think is that's good. It's wonderful that people go to school and get formal education. That's an awesome thing. Just as a human, that's awesome. But remember, what I'm looking for is someone who matches up with my criteria that already exist to do the job, right? Ideally, they can do as much of it as possible from the day one, and they can do it right? They do it right the first time. And the learning curve then is as reasonable as I can get it. They'll have to learn some specifics of our individual office and our individual cultural expectations of our organization, but I'd like them to be able to do the basics of this from, as much as I can. That's the ideally, because then I have less time to get them to a place where they're really able to start doing the work, interfacing with the phone systems and people that walk into the office, things of that nature. When I see on there that somebody has a high level of education relative to the job, now the job for administrative assistant does not require a graduate degree in this setting. Now, it certainly is possible that some job would do that, but I'm talking generically. Most expectations in sort of a global generic office do not require a graduate university degree for an administrative assistant entry-level position. Now, they may require a high school equivalent that you finished, primary school, and high school equivalent. They may, in some instances, they will require this. You see more common that they'll have either an associate's degree or some level of undergraduate degree or certificate. Some programs have vocational programs where you've gone through a vocational program and it confirms that you've studied and learned office management, these types of things, all the things I just mentioned, right? So it depends. But if this job did not require a university graduate degree, and I see one on that application, what is it? What is the negative thing that I'll take away from that as an employer potentially? Well, what I'm going to think is this. Remember, I'm looking for, my fantasy is the person who has the skills that can come in and do the thing as much as possible, as correctly as possible from the beginning with the smallest learning curve necessary, and that they will stay. Because every time again that I have to go through all of this, right? I got to go out and I got to procure potential, applicants, and I have to interface with them, and then I have to comply with all these different, legal and organizational requirements, and you have to obtain their, their resume or their online, skill profile, and then we have to go through that, and we have to determine what, would be appropriate for who we could, bring in to interview, and then we've got to go through and do all these background checks and see if the person is who they say they are, right? People have a whole bunch of identity fraud. This is a global problem. Is that person really who they say they are? What is their identification and their where are they registered with the government, so I can kind of see who they really are. Sometimes, depending on the job, maybe we'll do drug testing or fingerprinting. I mean, there's all kind of things people do, right? It's to make sure that person is who they say they are. All of this costs me a lot of time and money. And even in the best scenario, there's still this adjustment period. Because no matter if the person is the most elite trained administrative assistant in the universe, they're still going to have to learn this individual culture, how we do it at this office. And that's going to take some time. And even if they do all of that and they fit in wonderfully, if people say, wow, that's the greatest administrative assistant hire we've ever had. I'm so happy. My life is better because they're here. Okay, great. I don't want them to leave. So when I see that somebody exceeds my expectations, and it's an indicator to me that they don't want to stay in this position, that it becomes something that is not going to help me move toward them as the applicant that I want to hire. Now, the challenge is that what happened in the global economic contraction, right? These are global trends, and these are things that, as I say in many of our programs, data is our friend. And of course, people sometimes say to me, well, yeah, data's your friend. You're a nerd, right? You're a professor and lawyer and all this kind of stuff. This makes you happy. Well, yes, that's true. And I've been very honest about that. That's one of the reasons I do this program and this show and all this type of work, is because I love all of it. That's why I'm here. Because this makes me happy. I am encouraging, even if you don't really particularly like data, that you need to get an understanding of what's happening and why you're in a situation where someone's saying you're overqualified. What it is often is there's a mismatch between what you have accomplished already and this position. And you know that. But the reason you've applied for this job is because right now you usually have a short-term need. Like maybe you really want to work at that organization. Maybe your lifelong dream is to work at that organization, but the only opening is this admin assistant job. So it's not necessarily that you want to be the admin assistant for the rest of your life, but it is that you want to work at that organization, and this will get your foot in the door. The person who's interviewing you knows this because there's indicators on your documentation you gave them that show you have ambition that very likely exceeds what this long-term career opportunity will afford you. Because even if you go in there and you're the greatest admin assistant in the universe, you're going to have a salary cap that you're going to hit that's going to be different from the other people who have jobs that require graduate university degrees. And you know that, and so does the person interviewing you. When the economic contraction happened, like I was saying with our data, we understand that globally, what tended to happen is you had in many parts of the world what's called a jobless recovery. So that jobs that were shed, right, that were cut, when organizations have to save money, then they're gonna just start cutting positions, cutting services, doing whatever they can to survive. Even governmental agencies do that, right? Governments have to do that. Organizations can run out of money, including governments can run out of money, which we saw. That's why we have International Monetary Fund. We have all kind of global mechanisms in place to try to stabilize our global markets as much as possible. So when money's tight, I cut. When I'm still scared, waiting to see what could happen, I'm not going to necessarily go back and hire all the people that I had before. So the jobless recovery often, in terms of data, is just that there are less positions than there were before. Because when I cut back, the people who were left that didn't lose their position often just worked harder. They just produced more partially because they were scared. When you see somebody else fired in your department or in your organization, it's a huge wake up sign and an indicator that you need to be the best you can be. And so when people sort of step up their productivity and their enthusiasm and their engagement, then an employer looks and thinks, well, I still don't know what's going to happen in the future, and I'm still kind of scared, so there's no need for me to go hire more people unless I have to, or I perceive I have to. So when your education, when your skill set far exceeds what the requirements are, the person who's interviewing knows in their mind that there's a higher probability that you're not going to stay. Not that you're not going to be great at the job. Often they perceive you will be great. Let's say it's an admin assistant job, administrative assistant job, and it only requires that you're able to speak one language. Okay, depending on where the job is, let's say it could be French. Let's say, though, that your resume and information shows you speak 6 languages. Now, that's a good thing. Again, as a human, I'd read that and think that's awesome. The challenge is I also know this. If you speak that many different languages fluently, you have many more opportunities than just being admin assistant. Not that being an admin assistant, there's anything wrong or right with that position. What I'm saying is that position is going to have a certain amount of career trajectory opportunities. It's going to have a certain amount of income and benefit opportunities based on the job itself, not the person who's holding it, but the job. My goal and dream is to find someone who that was their dream, to be an admin assistant, and then hopefully they'll stay as long as possible. Are there people who get an administrative assistant position and that is the greatest thing they have ever dreamed of and wanted? Yes. It's all relative. If someone came from a position where maybe they had maybe a family and a life background where no one even had stable employment, and now this is a fantastic organization with great benefits and an awesome schedule and a fantastic office, that's a great step up. Maybe what they were doing before, what their family and friends do is low wage, grueling physical labor, and this is a very cushy, awesome job. It's relative. The challenge will be if it's someone who comes and looks at the admin assistant, which is just this. It's the same elements, but someone else who has graduate university education, speaks 6 languages, and then used to, on the resume, after they did admin assistant work, they also used to be the vice president at a different employer. They're going to look at it differently. Everything is always relative, and not, well, again, we don't like absolutes, and I caution against using them. So let me clarify that, because that was not completely accurate. Everything isn't relative. I'm not doing a moral relativism argument, but what I am saying is that many of these types of things in jobs are relative. What's a good salary? It's relative. How much money am I used to making? If I'm used to making the equivalent of $8 US dollars an hour, and you show me a job that's going to pay me $30 US dollars an hour, in my mind, that's awesome. Are you serious? But if I'm used to making $250 US dollars an hour, and you show me a job that's $30 an hour, it's not awesome, because it's a lot less. So it's relative to the position of the individuals making the assessment on what they think based on their life experience and their expectations. And that's where the employment interaction becomes so exciting. Yes, it's challenging, but it's also exciting. When you go and you apply for jobs that you are far in excess of qualified for, the fact that you could do the job is often understood, assuming that what you say is accurate, that you're being truthful. It's not that someone thinks, overqualified doesn't mean you're too smart or will do too great of a job in the admin assistant. What it means is their perception is you're not going to stay in that job, that you're using that as either an entry into that firm or the government agency because you really want to work there, and you hope you're planning to move on to something else, or that the economy was bad or something happened, or you just had something in your personal life, and so you've been out of the workforce for a little bit, and now you're just using this as an entry back in. but you're not going to stay. And the core issue of you not staying is why when they say you're overqualified, that's what it means. It doesn't mean that it's personal, they don't like you, which again, if you've taken our other programs and been part of our shows, that I caution against any of that type of language. This is not about whether they like you or not. It's whether or not you're what you can do for them and what they can do for you, right? This is a business thing. Their perception that you're overqualified is usually based on something tied to reality. Now, is it possible and does it happen that there's someone who's just viciously and cruelly says you're overqualified, but you really aren't? Yes, that does happen, but it's rare because look, this is something that's costing them time and money to go do interviews and look at applicants and all this. It's a time and money thing, so there's no rational reason for them to not take it seriously. They want someone that can come in, as we already talked about, able to do this with the smallest learning curve as possible, and that'll stay as long as possible. All of the things that you show that let them know that you're probably not going to stay or why they say you're overqualified. And what I tell people when I work with people individually on this is I say to them, let's get to the deeper issue. Why are you applying for a job that you know you're not going to stay in? And then I'll get answers like, well, I just really wanted to get my foot in the door at that firm. And I say, well, yeah, they know that too. Or, people will say, well, I went to school and I earned these other graduate degrees, but I really don't think I'm, that smart. Okay, that's your own issue with your own value and self-esteem. We have a lot of programs that we talk about these issues. You have got to get out of your own way of being your own worst enemy. When you go and you earn higher level credentials and skills, then that means you got to use them. Now, you could lie. People say, well, I'll just lie and not put my degree on there. Okay, well, that's also lying. I would argue it's unethical, and in many places it may even be fraud. Now, we more negatively usually think of someone who does the alternative, right? They don't have a degree that's required for a job, and then they lie and say they do have it, and then we all get very angry often and think, well, how dare they do that, right? How dare they diminish the hard work people put in, going to school, getting that credential or license or whatever? They're just liars. Okay, right. But when you do the other way, when you intentionally lie and don't put on there what you have, it's you're still lying. And then that takes us again to an ethical analysis of, and depending on where you are in the world, even maybe a legal issue, right? Don't do this. If you go and you've developed and you maintained, you have a lot of years of experience and or a diversity of experience in different skill sets, which languages, computer programming, degrees, licenses, whatever. If you have that knowledge and experience, you have to use it. Now, the reality, of course, is there are going to be less jobs. There's just less numbers of jobs for higher level skills because you need less of those people. You're always going to have a larger number of job openings for entry level work because I need more entry level people. There's only one chief executive of the whole organization. So there's going to be one opening for that whenever it happens. There are going to be a lot more openings for entry-level jobs. This is the numbers of it. And what tends to happen is people put themselves in a situation where they get really frustrated and often reasonably so. Maybe they've been out of work for a long time. Maybe they hadn't been in the job, paid job, and maybe they were staying at home and then something happened and now they're not able to do that any longer. And they need a job. They need money. And what tends to be the issue that gets somebody in a situation where they're applying for jobs that they really are far in excess of the qualifications is because they have a short-term financial goal they're trying to meet. So what I recommend for something like that is you need to go, depending on where you are in the world, these will be slightly different. But if there's temporary work or contract work, that's what you need to go do. So if you have a lot of skills, you have a lot of different expertise, areas, then instead of going and applying for full-time jobs where their fear is you're not going to stay, go apply for things where you weren't supposed to stay anyway because it was a defined contract. It's either part-time or it's a contract where we only need somebody to do this for 6 months. Or what I would do when I was younger and I needed income, right? And I had a lot of education and skills because I had gone to university, to college when I was a teenager, and I'd graduated with my undergraduate bachelor's degree when I was 20 years old. So I was still really young. But before I got to a point where I started to do all the things I've done for my career, I needed money. I go to a temporary agency because that's exactly what they're there for. So it takes away this whole problem of I'm not going to get hired because I'm overqualified, because I'm not going to stay because they don't need me to stay. And then the skills I had, I did. Now that I'm thinking about this, it's coming to my mind. I'm remembering I did admin assistant type work, right? Now that wasn't my number one skill area. I had a university degree, but if they needed somebody to go in there and file things, now I'm remembering I'd spent a whole couple of days on an assignment, literally going through paper folders and alphabetizing them. That's what the client needed, and that was perfect. It was a temporary job. I am able to alphabetize. I'm actually really good at things like this, and it wasn't an issue whether or not I had advanced degrees because I was retained and brought on by the temporary agency to go to that client of theirs to go do alphabetizing. It was perfect. Had I gone and applied for a full-time position to do alphabetizing, then I'm pretty sure, I would guess, somebody probably would have said you're overqualified for this. And they're right. My question though is, why are you applying? And like I said, it's usually because either it's short term and it's often an economic issue. Because if you didn't need the money, and we talk about this in our financial fierceness series, right? If you were financially independent, meaning you have diversified resources, you've got income producing resources so that even if you don't work or do anything for a salary, you've got money coming in from these other investments or rental properties or whatever. And so that covers your overhead. And so you may not be able to go out and buy new things, but you have enough money to cover your infrastructure, right? Without needing to go out and be worried about how am I going to pay the cable bill or how am I going to pay my water bill or how am I going to pay my rent. You already have that set up. So that's something we've talked about in other programs. Strongly encourage you to revisit. And if that's taken care of, then you're never going to be in a situation where you feel like, oh, I need money now. And that's why I'm going to go apply for a job that I really know I'm not going to stay in for the rest of my life. So that's one path to help resolve that in the future. In the interim, then I'm giving really tangible things that I strongly suggest you look into. You need to do temporary work, you need to do contract work, you need to go on some of these credible is the most important word, websites where you don't even go to the temporary agency, but you take them out as a middleman and you just sell your services. And there's tons of these around the world, right? So somebody needs somebody to come in and help write, a marketing report. And you have skills where you can do that. You go put your skills and your resume, and then you bid, and then you're hired and you work virtually in a lot of these situations. So those are another option. But those are all contracts. I'm trying to show you that you can use your skills, your admin assistant skills. Just don't go and apply for a full-time admin assistant job when you know you're not going to stay there for the rest of your career. Now, the second part of this is really important is the psychological and emotional part. That's where someone, even though they do have advanced skills, education, credentials, whatever, in their mind, they feel that they're, quote, not good enough for that. And that's the group that I've worked with individually that's the most challenging, because then they have to work and do some really heavy lifting emotionally. And they've got to change how they see themselves. You cannot go out and obtain credentials and elite skills and then think that you're not going to have to use them. You do have to use them. You have to change how you see yourself. You are that person. And we have programs where if you say, well, look, I don't want to manage. I get that. That's fine. You don't have to manage. We can find ways for you to do something that uses your high level skills, but might not be, you're managing, 700 people in a department. But we have to work on that realistically. This thing where you don't value yourself and then you want to go out and find some random stranger and an employer that's going to do the same type of thing, it's not going to happen. You may not think you're attractive. I said that analogy earlier where someone says, hey, you're really good looking, you're attractive. And then you say, I'm not, I'm ugly. Look, that doesn't even sound logical. That's the same problem you have when you go to an employer with all this experience and skills and multiple languages and expertise and degrees and certifications. Then you want to sit there and say to them, well, not me. I'm not ugly. I'm ugly. They're not going to go along with you. That's not even rational. It doesn't even make any sense. So that's an issue where you need to go and we have tons of resources and programs trying to help you change how you see yourself so that you can gain that confidence to understand that you're going to have to go and do different types of work because you are too qualified to go into these career term opportunities. You're not going to be able to use all the skills that you have. And like I said, if you say, well, I don't want the pressure of being a manager, I don't want the pressure. There's lots of other alternative employment opportunities we can find for you where you are able to use your high-level skills and then meet these other expectations you have, right? Where it's totally reasonable and understandable to say, hey, I don't want to go in there and manage 700 people or 7,000 people or 70 people. Fine. But you're going to still have to find some other type of job where you're using those intellectual skills that you have, or the language skills that you have, or the, the experience you have. But you're not, this thing where you think somebody else is going to go along with your kind of charade, where you pretend that you're not as qualified as you are, is not rational. And that's what's getting you in this loop, this negative feedback loop, where you say, hey, I'm applying for jobs, and they're saying I'm overqualified. I'm saying that there's a reason they're saying you're overqualified. You may not have formal education, but you may have such advanced and articulate speaking skills that you are overqualified. Because the person who's interviewing knows the type of individual who has done well in that job before. And if you far exceed that, it's a good thing for you, but it's not a good thing for them, because if you come in there, you're not going to stay in that position. You're going to be promoted upwards. You're going to make a lateral move. You may get a better opportunity any day now. And they know that. Even if you don't see your value, they see your value. And that's what's going on here. That's what's happening. So that's to say this is a good thing. When someone says you're overqualified, it's like someone says you're attractive. Okay, thank you. That's a good thing. I may have to go work on my own mindset. I may have to do all types of really intensive work to understand, why don't I think I'm attractive? Why am I arguing that I'm not a good thing? And it's the same thing with this. The fact that you're overqualified is good. And like I said, there's two main areas where people get upset. It's one, financial. The person needs money. And that's why they get upset. And they're like, hey, I don't care what they're saying. I need money. They know you need money, but they know you're not going to stay if you can find something else commensurate with your skill level. They know it. And I'm telling you, I know it. And you should know it too. If there's short-term needs, then let's go look at all these other areas. We have programs. We have resources. We do whole webinars on how to do this. Find these types of resources where you have ongoing contract work as an ancillary income stream, so that you're not ever going to be totally out of income, right? We have lots of different methods for getting you to a place where we can meet that need for the finance, and we can change some of the structure of your personal life, so you're not going to be in a situation again, so that you're not going to be there. It's unfair to both parties. You know that the reality is you're probably not going to stay. And a lot of people, again, I get pushback, and they say, well, you don't know what the future holds. I don't, neither do you, but I do know this. You have an immediate short-term need that's stressing you out. You need money. And so when that happens, most people, when under that kind of pressure, will tell themselves all kind of lies just to get that immediate need met. And what I'm saying is that's not fair to the employer, which is why the employer can usually, when they see that, that's why they're going to go to this overqualified thing. Because you're lying to yourself, but you're also lying to them that you're going to stay forever. And what I'm saying is, let's find a pathway to get those immediate financial needs met, and then come up with a plan and execute it and implement it so that you don't ever get in that situation again. Right? And in addition to that, being overqualified again is awesome. It's just that it's like anything in life. The more unique your skills are, then the more unique the opportunities are, they're going to work for you. It's a supply and demand thing. It works to your benefit. The fact that you're overqualified really helps you immensely, because there are less people who can compete with you. The thing is, you got to go in the pool with people like you to get those jobs. Now, there are less of them. But that's a good thing usually, because the fact that there's less of them and there's less competition, that's usually why there's higher salary and benefits and income and commission and all this kind of good stuff. And it's exciting. But you have to be realistic with yourself. You are overqualified. That's what they're telling you that. My personal advice is you be honest. So it's dishonest to take things off your resume and leave them off. Also, usually when you talk to people, whether it's on the phone or in person, you're going to give away a lot of the clues and the cues that are going to tell an employer that you probably aren't going to be the one that stays for life. They can tell your vocabulary, the way you carry yourself. They can pick up on whether or not this is somebody who, this is their life's ambition, this would make them really happy, or this is somebody who just temporarily needs money and they'd be great at it, but they're not going to stay because they can do more than this, and they have done more, or they want to do more. So the fact that you're overqualified is awesome. You and I hope, will continue to collaborate and work together on ways for you to, again, meet these immediate needs financially, which is usually what drives somebody into the situation, and then get a structure set up and execute so that you never have a financial pressure to put you in a situation again. And then you need to deal with the emotional, psychological part of this. Yes, you're the one. You do have these skills. Just like I said at the outset, if somebody says you're attractive, you are. Accept it. And then you got to go work on yourself and understand, sometimes individually, sometimes with family and friends in your community of caring, and sometimes with professional help. Why am I not seeing this? Why am I fighting myself saying I'm not attractive? Why am I fighting myself saying I'm not good enough for these jobs that I'm qualified for? That's the other part of this that's very serious. But the beauty of all of this is it's a good thing. Just like somebody saying you're attractive is a good thing. It's a good thing if somebody says you're overqualified, because you are. Now let's fix it so that you're out there applying for and working in positions that meet your qualifications, and more excitingly, that provide future opportunities for you to learn new things and to have that excitement of each day, looking forward to new adventures in life. That's where we're going with this. And for some people, the admin assistant job is that. Maybe a great company, maybe, benefits and a pension and retirement. It may be fancy office. It may be everything they've ever dreamed of. That person deserves that job. You need to go to the job that matches the current qualifications that you have, not who you used to be. And again, this is a lot of the things people in their own mind caught in how they used to see themselves, or caught in legacies of negative feedback in the past that don't even exist. That's something that, again, individually and sometimes with other people or professional help, you've got to rectify that, because you are this thing now. You are that qualified. And that's awesome. So let's do the two-pronged approach, dealing with whatever immediate financial issues that are or the issue that's there, right? Through work where you're going to use your skills, and it doesn't matter that you're not going to stay. And we also are going to set up diversified plans so that you always have multiple income streams, so you're not going to be in a point in the future where you have no options financially. And we're also going to put us in a place where mentally we understand that, okay, maybe this is not what I was ever told I was capable of. Maybe this is not whatever anyone else ever expected of me, but this is what I now possess in terms of skills and qualifications, and I need to change how I view myself, so I'm out there applying for the jobs that I'm really capable of, and using all these wonderful things that have resulted in me being, in a very positive way, labeled overqualified. And again, the only time people are ever upset about the overqualified label is when they feel that they, quote, need the job, and that's usually an economic issue, and that's when they get mad. And you're not mad that you're overqualified, because you really don't care about that. You're just mad that they didn't hire you, in that you really wanted the money. And like I said, in some instances, it's just that the person psychologically hasn't adjusted, that they do now have these skills, that they are this other type of person who needs to be in a different type of job. So this is a good thing. It is a positive thing. We have action items and paths to resolve it and make sure it never happens again. So we're going to have these discussions. And again, congratulations. Congratulations on being overqualified. All we got to do is match qualifications with opportunities, and we need to find a way to execute immediate economic and financial opportunities so that you're never in a situation again where this happens. I am so appreciative that you joined me for episode 212. Episode 212. I do again always encourage you to drop by CourtneyAnderson.com. Also, when you find our program on any of our distribution channel partners around the world, iTunes, or Stitcher, or Spreaker, or Libsyn, please leave reviews and ratings. They're really important. And share our programs on your social media. I am on Twitter at Zealous Business, and I look forward to you being part of our community and future programs. Thank you.